in a way, I knew I was the CEO of the company. I made the fatal assumption that when I hired people, they were going to do their part. I think I knew I was responsible for it.
I made the fatal assumption that when I hired people, what did you say? They would do
their part. They would do what they're supposed to do. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 10X Owners Live. Tonight, we're going to be talking about finances and how we use them in the organization to make remarkable decisions each and every day.
Wait, but who are you?
I'm Brandon Dawson. I am the co-founder of Cardone Ventures, and this is the remarkable Natalie. Mess your own name up.
We're going to repeat that.
Must have been that walnut I had earlier. Natalie Dawson, our head of operations, our EVP of operations. And she also happens to be responsible for all of the hiring that we do in this organization. She has a team of people she works with. And so tonight we're going to be talking about finances and the importance using finances to make hiring decisions.
How many of you guys put in the chat a 10X if you look at your financial statements every single month? Put a 10X in the chat. There likely are not going to be too many 10Xs. Oh, can we get the chat moved down? Because this is one of the things that I think business owners say that they do every day. Dan's like, I look at them every day.
Yeah, that's good.
Brent, Latasha, interesting. Okay. I appreciate the no's because
how about this?
What we see more often than not is that people do not look at their financials every single month and actually have not a clue what's happening on their balance sheet, on their P&L, and how that's actually tied out to any sort of forecast or budget that they created for that year.
I know we had Jeff and Dwayne talking about the importance of finances last week. And so, people tend to underestimate the value of the numbers.
So true. People think that people like him don't need to know this. And this is something that Brandon has taught me over the almost decade now that we've worked together. Brandon, his function in our business, he is not the CFO. He is not our controller. He is the chief executive officer. And as the CEO, you might think, oh, Brandon doesn't look at the financial statement. That's somebody else's job. Brandon doesn't have to understand what goes on a balance sheet and what goes on a profit and loss statement. That's somebody else's job. When in fact, it couldn't be further from the truth. To the extent that you do not understand these things, your business will be in trouble. And you've learned that in a very painful way.
Yeah,
Why did you learn that? Because Brandon was a 2.4 GPA. I was actually great at math. I was one of those people in school who was great at math. He was not great at math from a school standpoint. And I'm so personally inspired by his story of how he learned these things because he learned it through failure. But you guys don't have to fail in order to learn these things. You can just choose to learn them and be dedicated business owners. So can you maybe share that?
Yeah, story? So when I started my first company and I was raising capital and I was out acquiring businesses.
How old were you?
I was 26 when I started that business.
26 years
maybe.
old. So you knew nothing. You didn't take some fancy finance.
Nope, I didn't. I hired a chief financial officer, and I assume they knew their business.
Isn't that interesting? How many of you guys have done that before? Put yes in the chat. You hire somebody and you just assume that they are going to know the financials. You assume that they're going to do all the things that they need to do. Some people are liars on this call. I know you guys are. It's okay. I know some of you guys are lying. I appreciate Fernando being honest.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, I had a receivables issue.
What does that mean for people who don't understand?
Yeah, it means we were billing, and we weren't collecting. So our receivables was going up, and we knew we would collect a certain percentage of those receivables, which created the cash flow to pay the bills each month. And we were running about a 72 or 74% collection against receivables. And I acquired a third-party receivable billing and collection company, and they didn't invoice for 90 days. So my receivables ballooned by, I think at the time we were billing about $3 million a month, and they ballooned to like $9 million over 90 days. And then they weren't collecting any of it. So all of a sudden in 1999, October of 99, I had to do an emergency round of financing in order to make payroll and keep the business going, because I didn't see it coming, and hire the infrastructure to fix it. And that gave up control of my company to my financier.
Like, this is so important. You were just so used to this story, but
Yeah.
I think of myself as somebody who was formally educated. I went through every accounting and finance class in college. I studied economics, and yet I still don't feel like this is really grasped by business owners. There was $9 million in receivables. And sometimes you might think, oh, the money is just going to come in. They owe us. So the money's just going to come in, when in fact, that's rarely the case.
Well, and you think that I've got a team of people that are collecting it. So obviously they're paying attention to it.
Obviously, but have you ever listened to the people who are responsible for collecting your money? Have you ever listened to, if you have an AR team, that's accounts receivable team, or if you just have one person, have you ever listened to those calls? Likely those people, think about that personality type. This is like where the people meet the operations. What is the personality type of somebody who works as somebody who's
Collecting
accounts
bills,
receivable?
yeah.
They're
Probably
high
high
analyzers,
analyzers.
such high analyzers. Is somebody who's a high analyzer going to naturally be a great salesperson on the phone to get the receivables that you are owed? Probably not.
Yeah. In fact, I would tell you that today in that particular situation, I'd rather have a salesperson calling the third party payers than an accounting person,
But
because
normally people just post for an accounting person to just handle this part of the
Mhm.
business, and yet you really can't. Okay, so you had this business, you own this business, you own the majority of it. Your receivables ballooned to 9 million, and at that point, as a business owner, you had to make
I had to do an
decision?
emergency financing with my largest shareholders.
So
And
what
that
does emergency financing mean?
I had to raise $10 million in order to keep the business going.
Crazy, right? Like, this happens.
And things were just starting to get so good too.
And he's like, oh, I just need the $10 million to cover this balloon payment because it just needs to get fixed. We just need to handle this for right now. You're like, I'm translating.
And
the
I did
story.
fix it. I mean, and we
Yes.
did, it took 5 months, but we fixed it. But I
Uh-huh.
gave away the short answer is I gave away control of the company. So 2 years later, that shareholder, when they decided to sell the company, had nothing to say about it. So,
Say that again so people understand. I don't think
so
people
2 years
understand.
later, when
I
my
really
private
don't.
equity group decided to sell my company,
The
they had
pri-
control of it and I could not stop them
The
from
people
doing
that
it.
he had the emergency funding. So at first
Yeah.
it's like, here's this money. Oh, we're just helping you out in this pinch.
Well, and we want to, and we want to make, like, private equity guys aren't in the business to help out. They're in the business to make money.
Of course.
The problem is it just gave them control of the business so they could choose when to make that money versus me choosing it.
Which is a very sad outcome for you, because what ended up happening?
Well, they sold it and I had to go start over. Right. And so, but I'll tell you what, it was a great lesson because I would never do it again. In fact, anybody that's gone through the 10X 360 or that's platformed with us or that works with our SBU team members, you guys know I've created a financial algorithm how to think and look at the business so that you make great decisions, in which 3 indicators you need to most pay attention to in order to know that you've got a healthy business and you don't violate those 3 rules. You won't need to raise money. In fact, our expertise, our specialty is teaching business owners how to make money so they can grow their business without giving equity away.
I just think people look at you today, and many people might be new on this call, or you're longtime
How many
10X
new
owners,
people we
live
have?
visitors.
Put
Yeah, if you
new
put
if
in the
you're new.
chat new, we'd love to say hi. I know this happened earlier, but there's some new people who have joined. For any of you guys who are new, it's I think it's kind of shocking when you hear that Brandon, who has so much business success over his career, had this catastrophic and very devastating experience very early on. But this same mistake could be made. It wasn't because he was young that this mistake was made. It was because he wasn't paying attention. He wasn't educated in these areas, and he didn't know that he was actually accountable and responsible to knowing these things.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in a way, I knew I was the CEO of the company. I made the fatal assumption that when I hired people, they were going to do their part. I think I knew I was responsible for it.
I made the fatal assumption that when I hired people, what did you say? They would do
their
job.
part. They would
their
do what
part.
they're supposed to do. Yeah.
But see, that's the fatal assumption I think people make across the board. It's not just finance, it's marketing, it's operations, it's human resources, it's so many different areas. We're talking about finance right now, but just that small, subtle mistake. I'll never forget you talking about the stacks of paper on your desk when you started looking at the receivables.
Yeah, it was actually, you remember the big green
boy.
and white reams? Anybody that's 50 years old or
we're
older?
going back.
Remember the
back
big
in the
green and white
days.
reams that would get printed off and they'd be like this big and they'd have line items on it? I sat with a yellow highlighter, a green highlighter, and a red highlighter. Anything over 90 days, anything between 30 and 90, I put yellow. Anything over 90, I do red. And I was just whacking those as fast as I could. And then I handed it over to my assistant and had him doing the calculator. And I said, by the time I got to the bottom, all of a sudden we had 18 million of receivables, of which 50% of them were greater than 90 days. And third-party companies would say, if you're outside of 90 days and you bill us late, we won't pay you at all.
Crazy.
So look, it was a horrible way to learn a lesson of how important the financials are of a business, but also the financial key indicators. So this isn't just about understanding your financials. It's about using your financials to establish a small group of key indicators. And you talked about them today, because we just went and looked at, we're switching our accounting from cash to accrual, because we're going to do $65 million, $70 million of revenue this year. And once you're over 25 million, the IRS wants you to use accrual accounting. So as we're switching it over to accrual, there's a lot of new reports that we need to create. And so that we were doing that today, and you were, and Jeff were talking about how you want to be able to take those predictable KPIs, revenue per employee. You could even track profit margin per employee, and cash collection. I look at cash. I don't care what the IRS says. I learned I want to see how much money we're at every single day, every morning, every single day, compared to what the budget was for that month, compared to the latest the month before it, and then whatever the best month we ever had was, comparing all three of those data points and revenue per head every single morning, every single day. And not only do I look at it, but every single employee gets that information here. A lot of business owners are afraid to share data with their employees. I want my employees to know exactly where we're at, because if you align your employees' personal, professional, and financial goals, and the only way you can do that is to build models so that you can figure out in your compensation structures how to do that and not find yourself in trouble. But end result is the more detailed you get and the more rhythm. See, entrepreneur intuition is created over the habit of doing something over and over and over consistently over a long period of time. So I know for a fact that when we look at the numbers based on our best month we've ever had, based on where we were at the month before compared to what the budget is for this month, we create an intuition in the whole organization where we can start to guesstimate halfway through the month what our revenues are going to be for the whole month. And then we know now 2 weeks in advance if we need to do things to try to accelerate revenue generation to either blow through our goals, because I don't want to hit budget every month. I want to beat budget every month. And someone said to me, so wait a minute, you don't look at year over year, like January to January? I'm like, January 12 months ago, my business was entirely different than it was January of this year. Why do I care about what I did 12 months ago? I'm trying to beat every single month. I'm trying to beat my best month, and I'm trying to beat my latest month. And so that's the mentality I want the team. I don't want the team going, oh, we only need to do 60 million next year instead of pushing for 70 or 75. I want to be pushing everybody every day. And in order to push, you need to provide information and details. And I have every single person gets that report every single day, and we announce it on the morning call.
I think the transparency does help the team. I love that some of our team members are in the chat saying 100% clarity. And even though it might not necessarily mean something to your team, to the team members that it does mean something to, you're giving them all of the information to be either terrified in the middle of the month. We've had some terrifying middle of the month financial reviews where we're like, oh my gosh, we need to do something different. But that's the whole purpose of having these meetings, is to be able to say, we have to do something different. And if you're not aware that you need to do something different, and your team that is required to help you isn't aware that you need to do something different, what's going to change? Nothing. No one's going to do anything different. And so you're just going to continue to maybe have the same marketing and sales strategy. And yet that's the exact thing that actually needs to be pivoting in that moment in time so that you can hit the result that you had initially targeted.
Yeah. And so look, our model set up, somebody just said 60 million selling workshops. The long answer is no. The top of our funnel are workshops, educational programs. And then the people who meet us, and sometimes it's doing something like this, a free show. Then what happens is, based on what they need to accomplish in their business, they sign up for the different workshops we have. And so that would be the entry point. As they go through our workshops, Some of them end up hiring us to re-engineer their business. So that's a longer consultative engagement. Some of them might get into my leadership program, and that's a 15-month program. And then from there, people go in and have us actively manage their business. And so we're on annual management contracts. And then for those businesses we're very interested about, we will partner with and become permanent equity partners with them to grow and scale to target. Then there are the vertical industries like the HVAC space, the chiropractic regenerative medicine, the landscaping space, the concrete space, hardscape concrete,
dental.
You got the dental space, you've got the cybersecurity space. So all of a sudden now we're taking groups of businesses and we're putting them into management companies, much like I did at Audigy. And the goal for us is to have dozens of these management companies where we have thousands of businesses that are in the same business, having an infrastructure for them to dominate within their marketplace and create massive value in their businesses. And then those people we also partner with through the management company, with them owning the management company with us. So we're creating like-minded entrepreneurs who are forward-thinking, who want to professionalize the operations of their business. They want to systematize the fastest and quickest way to grow, and they want to automate the business scaling process with us connected to them, being managed by us, our teams, so that we could rapidly expand and grow their business. And people ask me all the time, how do you do that? Like how do you do it? And I always talk about how I learned from one of my mentors, Story Musgrave, who taught me. He's the only astronaut that flew all 5 space shuttles, designed, deployed, and fixed Hubble. Beautiful, beautiful human being. Very dear friend of Natalie's and mine. And he taught me how NASA operates and how they systematize their mission and then work together as a team to get everybody trained, get them prepared, get the equipment prepared, get it to the mission, return it from mission safe and sound, decompress everybody or whatever they do to get them reacclimated. And then they get together and talk about and break down all the things that went well, didn't go well, so that they can learn and go after it again. So this is what we do. We do the exact same thing with business owners, and we manage their businesses. One of the most important thing, 99% of the time, let me ask Natalie this question. 99% of the time, what's the first thing we have to fix with almost every single business before they can understand what to do?
Their financials, which is why I called a lot of you guys liars who are saying that you're looking at your financials every month, because most businesses don't. And quite honestly, this shocked me when we started Cardone Ventures. It absolutely blew my mind when our teams were saying, oh, well, we have issues because we can't get access to this client's financials. And across the board, it was 85% of our clients who did not have solid bookkeeping services, did not have solid team members that they could train how to do this for them, or it was the wrong information that they were reading. And so for us, it's become this mission of ours to equip business owners, especially on the finance side. Jeff and I used to have these little debates as to which was more important, people or finance. And of course, I would say people are more important, because in order to have financials, people have to build them. As like, duh. But since actually understanding more of these problems, I fully believe and aligned with him that finance is the most important and critical aspect of business owners today in the United States in 2022, and actually having clarity around what to look at, what maybe isn't so important, and then how to actually use that information for 3 decisions, which is what we're going to talk about on this call. Do you remember the 3 decisions?
Why don't you tell everybody?
The first decision,
Miss
I have all of them in my head.
London School of Economics.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. The first decision that your financials impact are your hiring decisions. How can you feel confident in adding team members to your organization if you don't have clarity as to how much you can pay them, but more importantly, how you can incentivize them? If you look at your financials every single month, you will have all of the confidence in the world to be able to create compensation plans for every team member, because you'll be able to see the following month, if you're looking at the information, how much comp they're being paid out. And if the business isn't growing and people are being paid more through their compensation plans, guess what you need to change? the compensation plan, and then you change the compensation plan. So it's this very easy system that can be put in place in order to truly look at inside your business what actually drives value. Now, what drives value should be tied to the people that you need to hire and the skill sets they need to either have before coming into the job or develop while they're on the job to add that value. Remember the second one?
Yeah. So here's the thing. If you don't learn to create a financial algorithm that gives you confidence to make those decisions, you won't make them. So
true.
So one, you can't. So let's look at the national stats. I always go to this. Everybody that knows me probably sick and tired of hearing me say it, but there's a reason I do, because I want you to remember every single time. 31.5 million small to mid-sized businesses. That's under $100 million. Okay. 31.5 million of them. 25 million have a single employee, the founder. 25 million. So they never actually get the confidence that they can hire other people because they're not making any money. 5.3 million have between 2 and 12 employees, and 600,000 have greater than 12 employees. So here's the thing. One of the most important things is to understand what your revenue contribution per employee is. So we talk a lot about this in our workshops. If you're not running between $250,000 and $500,000 of revenue per employee contribution, your business isn't going to be scalable and you won't make any money. You won't have the confidence to hire people if you don't make money. That's why people don't hire people. So the bottom line is you have to learn. That's why when we talk about the P's, the 4 P's to building a business: promote, profit, process, people. Well, if you don't promote, you won't create a profit. Any business that I've seen where they were technically inclined and they put all their money into building some technical thing, but they never promoted, they never made any money. They go out of business. Statistically, the 3 reasons these businesses, 2/3 of these businesses go out of business every 5 years, and 97% go out of business every 10, is because they say no demand for product or service, can't hire any good people, and can't get financing. Well, you're not going to hire good people if you, the owner, can't show that you know how to make a profit and you can sell something. You're not going to get financing if you, the owner, can't demonstrate that you can sell something, a product or service or both, and make a profit. So those are excuses for just never learning to properly build a business. And so what I tell business owners, they go out, they promote. Somebody asked what the 4 P's are: promote, profit, process.
Enrique got us.
People. There you go, Enrique. Good job, buddy. And so, we have people on here that have learned how to do this with us. I see Pat Morstead on here. I mean, look, there's people on here. I see Greg,
Jason,
Sherman.
Anthony.
Once you learn the principles of growing and scaling and creating value, building a business, you eliminate the things that go wrong. And how do you do that? You do it by having awareness, but by paying attention, by listening, by understanding. What I want to know, if let me just tell you, if I started a business, this is not overly complicated, and this is what I learned. Okay. Here's a few things you got to pay attention to. Whatever you sell, service, product, both, you got to be able to sell it. Then you got to collect the money. And then that money becomes the fuel. And so I want you to think about, like with our jet, if we got up 40,000 feet and we only had enough fuel to go 30 minutes and we're expecting to go 5 hours, you already know what the problem is going to be.
It's terrifying. Why would you even say that? That's terrifying.
Yeah. Well, if you don't put enough gas in it, it should be terrifying.
Oh.
But it should be terrifying in your business. If you don't have enough gas in your business, you go hire a bunch of people and you get altitude, and then all of a sudden what happens? You stall. So now all of a sudden you're panicked, and there's no way to build a business. So the important thing is you generate a sale, you got to collect the money. By the time you collect that money, you got to be able to pay your bills. So the calculation should be easy. You want to build $1 million business. If your business is going to run a 25% profitability, that's $750,000 a cost. I asked somebody at our last boot camp, would you spend $350,000 to create a $25 million business? And he's like, no. I said, you're certain, you're 100% certain you would not spend $350,000 to have a $25 million business? Absolutely certain. I go, then you're never going to get 25 million, because to have a $25 million business, you got to spend 21 million. See, if you can't accept that you're going to have to spend a lot of money to have money, then you're always going to stay small because it's going to be too scary, which is why business owners don't grow. They're petrified of what will happen if they get to altitude and stall. So they're so fixated on that, they don't actually put the fundamentals and the discipline in. And that's what we teach, is how to account for your money so you have the confidence to go to altitude.
We do have 2 more decision types to go over as to why you need to look at your financials. Don't worry, I didn't forget that there are 2 more, but I do want to share with you guys that we have a Finance Essentials workshop coming up here shortly. Team, if you could put the slide up so that people can get all of the information regarding our Finance Essentials workshop that's coming up with the one and only Mr. Jeff Jessen.
Jeff Jessen.
We call it finance around here because Jeff makes finance fun.
Not only do we have a smart finance guy, but he looks a little bit like Superman.
You think Jeff looks like Superman?
No, but that, I'm sure that just makes him feel so good. Look at him.
I mean,
Look at him. He's got a Superman look.
I see it. Okay, so the Finance Essentials workshop with Jeff Jessen. He is our EVP of Finance. This is happening on March 5th and 6th here in our Scottsdale headquarters. This space is amazing. If you haven't been here, we would love to have you here. Scan the QR code in order to get in contact with one of our sales team members. This Finance Essentials is going to be a packed house. People love Finance Essentials.
That's why I said I think they love Jeff.
That's true. What's not to love about Jeff?
So here's the thing. If you want to learn the principles of all the financial principles of the things that you need to anchor into in order to grow your business, create massive value in your business, be able to be the 3% that lasts longer than 10 years. Because look, once you learn the fundamentals, your business will be sound forever.
And nobody teaches this stuff.
No.
Nobody, there's no.
That's because I don't think there's a professor that's built a business that's $100 million at the average school.
If you actually do like some of the stuff, Finance Essentials is an interesting workshop for us because you have to get the basics while also introducing these very complex things around how to create long-term incentive programs, also known as equity earn-in structures for team members. And so it really covers the gamut if you're brand new, but also if you're very experienced, how to properly incentivize what you should be doing from an investment strategy with your excess cash. So this Finance Essentials workshop is one of my favorites. And Jeff does a remarkable job, as well as our finance team, who spend every single day looking at business owners' financials across the world to understand what trends are happening, what you should be spending on, where you should be spending it, the timing of those investments, etc. With that, speaking of investments, number 2, the second type of decision as it relates to looking at your financials every single month is the investment decisions that you are making with the money that you earn and hopefully collect.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you don't have money, you're not going to be investing.
What types of investment? Because when most people hear investment, they might think, oh, like personal investments, like real estate investment or investment in the stock market. But as a business, investment looks different.
So there's the 3 rules of investing. Invest in yourself first, invest in the thing that generates your income, and then invest in passive income. People want to go straight from not making any money to investing in real estate because they think it's going to be easy. So it's a lot easier. Pat's on here. Pat went from making $100,000 a year to making, in this first year working with us, $500,000. And so he pulled 5 years of income forward, but now he can put that into real estate, which will compound for the next 5 years. And so our target this year for Pat's business is to make $1 million. He'll pull 10 years forward and then pay some taxes and then put that to work. So in 2 years, he will have generated what would be the equivalent to 15 years. Now imagine if you could pull money forward, pull time forward, and then get time to multiply for you. So learning about math, learning about numbers and how to make them work for you, when you learn the science of it, it makes all decision-making so much easier. So if you're going to invest in your business, what I would do is say, okay, what things do I need to invest in? So yes, investing in people, also investing in technology, investing in marketing, investing in real assets that you might need for your business to grow, investing in software programs to help your business be more organized, investing in a great accountant, or somebody that you can outsource to, or a great CPA who also does accounting. In Sherman's case, invest in people offshore so that you can get lower labor costs and provide employment opportunities to people who otherwise might not have them and be able to impact their lives. So investment could be anything that allows the business to massively grow and scale and get bigger. But if you always think small, or if you suck all the money out for yourself, so you go and finally make money and then you go buy a boat, you go buy a new house and you buy a new car, you go buy all the toys, but you're not investing in the business, then your asset eventually becomes starved, and you can't invest in the things that create more value.
Well, and who's advising you as to when to make these different decisions? Because you don't necessarily invest in technology and team members and marketing and infrastructure all at the same time, right? We refer to these as breakpoints. It's the areas that you focus as your business hits these different revenue sizes. And anybody who has had experience building businesses, as soon as they see these breakpoint slides and have come up against these chasms that are in between the breakpoints where it's like failure can happen, they instantly relate to it, because it's so true. At these just different points in revenue, you have to be making these other investments, and oftentimes they're scary, because right now you're in this breakpoint. You might be in breakpoint 1 and you're moving into breakpoint 2 from a revenue standpoint, but you're nervous if you're making the right investment. Oh, should it be technology? Should it be sales team members? Should it be leadership team members? Should it be a marketing initiative? And so this investment decision isn't just about real estate investment or personal investing. It's actually, how do you use the organizational funds to invest in the business for its future growth? Did you like that comment that was up there? Hey, Dimitri, can you scroll up to the comment? I love the, where is it? Keep going. Oh yeah, Steve and Kristen, we visited another boot camp and they told us we have sexy financials compared to everyone else in the group. Thank you and your team. This is the real deal. Don't you want sexy financials? If you could have one thing, forget about sexy marketing. You don't need sexy sales. Definitely not, unless you're in like, I don't know what kind of industry, but sexy financials is the best type of sexiness to have in any business.
Yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it demonstrates that you're a responsible business owner because you know what's going on in your business. When you don't know what's going on and you can't make good decisions because you don't have the confidence to do it, that doesn't bode well for hiring the best people. It doesn't bode well for being confident and paying the most amount of money for for rewarding people who contribute. And so, look, you just got to accept the fact that if you learn what we teach at the Finance Essentials, now the good news is you don't need to go get your CFA. You don't need to go and become go to accounting school. You don't need to know all that, but you need enough to understand what people that are working for you or should be working for you. You need to know enough to direct them and tell them what you want to see and get the information that you need in order to make the best decisions that will allow your organization to breathe and grow, because you're a responsible business owner.
I think it would be cool if they could go behind the scenes and watch you go through these things, because 9 times out of 10, it is you who catches any sort of issue. And I just think it really demonstrates the real level of responsibility and accountability that you have for the organization's financials. And it's a lesson to me. I take notes every time, like, what did he see that I didn't see at first? And it helps the whole team raise their game. If you're catching that, like, that's not ideal, right? And it's not like we have flagrant financial issues, but the stuff that he pulls out, you're like, I didn't even think to look at that. And it's because he's highly responsible, as should you be. Because if you're not, you're just assuming that your bookkeeper is handling those things. And oftentimes they're not. Do you want to tell the story about our friend who had that tax issue at the end of the year?
We were having dinner.
You don't say who.
I won't. We were having dinner with a friend, and he was looking for a boat at the end of last year. So I was like, how's the boat hunting going? I'm not talking about a little boat either. I'm talking about, this friend of ours makes a lot of money. And so he's like, it was great. I had it all picked out. And then I got a call December 15th from my CFO who said, hey, you remember these warrants and options you gave yourself? Blah, 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 blah. He's like, yeah. He says, well, they just came in the money and you got to pay the IRS $25 million. And you have 2 weeks, 2 weeks to do it. He goes, I looked right at my wife. I was like, we got to fly home. screw the boats. We got something. It was no longer fun. So
can't wait to have those problems.
Yeah, they
we
sound
don't
like
have
good
those
problems,
yet.
but
We want those problems.
yeah, I don't want those problems.
Well, that's true.
I pay attention so I don't have those problems because
Totally.
I can't, you know what? Here's the truth. At this point, I would feel that I was totally responsible, totally accountable because I wasn't paying attention to something if that happens. And so I don't want to be surprised that way anymore. I had plenty of those surprises when I had a public company with margin calls and other things. And really, it's just not educating yourself on the details and the facts and paying attention to things. And so those type of things happen. So anyhow, I don't want to have that feeling. He recovered, fortunately, because he's a very responsible person that has made a lot of money, but still he said that it was terrifying. So let's take a couple questions.
Oh, wait, no, we have our third thing and then we'll take questions.
What's our third thing?
Our third and final piece. Nobody's guessed it quite yet. The third is operating decisions. So when you look at your financials, you can make hiring decisions, you can make investment decisions, but you also need to make operating decisions. And what I mean by operating decisions is all of a sudden, like Brandon looking through his accounts receivable back when he was 26 years old in the Stone Ages with these, what were they called? The
printer paper. I don't know.
Printer paper pads. The operating decision then needed to be what? Outside of going and raising funds, like what structural things did you have to?
Yeah,
fix
I had
in
to
your
re-engineer
organization?
the whole
AR team.
First, I flew down to the business we bought that was supposed to be doing it that wasn't, and I fired everybody. And then I had to go hire a whole bunch of people.
That's an operating decision.
That was an operating
that's
decision.
a hiring decision. The first one was an operating.
I flew down to New Mexico and literally because they weren't doing their job. I just terminated everybody in one day, boxed everything up, had it shipped up to Portland, and I started hiring people the next day. And then we trained them on how to do something that quite honestly should have taken us a year, but because it was such a significance importance for us, we went after it. And then we started automating it. Then we created an automation tool that made us made us unique in the marketplace. And so the point is you can take these mistakes and turn them into assets, by the way, because when you solve those problems for yourself, now you can solve them for other people.
But now you're just looking at different things inside your organization. It's not just moving numbers on a spreadsheet. If you realize that you're way off target, what new product can you create? What different marketing strategy and campaign can you come up with in order to generate sales to your existing products? The financials are the system of record for all of the things that you need to tweak and to do, especially the successful months. For those of you who are like, I don't have problems with, negative things happening, my business is growing. Well, great. What are the things that you were doing that were successful in order to create the lift? Because there's still changes that happen where there's the biggest spike. Okay, what did you do in order to generate that lift? And how do you do that over and over again? Hire team members to be able to execute on more initiatives. But all of these things tie around looking, like actually spending at least 30 minutes, if not an hour, on looking at your balance sheet, looking at your P&L and understanding the ins and outs of your business.
And once those things are set up, like I said, all I have to do is every morning look at those numbers for
the cash
collected
numbers
versus the report. Because can I tell you something? Now, if you're showing the cash collected every morning, then you simply need to go to your finance people and say, show me that money was deposited. Like now, the money's in the bank. So you feel good when you have big numbers coming in every single month and they keep climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing, because then you have confidence to pursue more employees and to do bigger things.
And one of the things Jeff will be talking about at the Finance Essentials workshop is all of the scary things that can happen that you can avoid. I see in the chat, David said, oh wait, no, it wasn't David, it's Paul. Paul said, we had the IRS show up in person for a 6-figure, the chat just went away, but it's coming back, for a 6-figure check once because a financial manager was not doing his job. Like, let's just avoid those things. This Finance Essentials workshop, it's happening March 5th and 6th in sunny Scottsdale. March is the best time to be in Scottsdale.
Oh my gosh, the weather here is unbelievable.
Here.
And so if you're in the Midwest and your weather's crappy, we're actually going to charge you full price because you need a reason to come down here. Pay full price just to get away from where you're at.
Love it.
All right, so let's take a few questions. Gus and Ashley. Hey guys.
You guys are so engaged. I love watching you.
Hey guys, thank you so much, Brandon and Natalie. We are so thankful to be in this group. Natalie, we're in the middle of your book, and we made our third partner start reading it in the book. The third, no, she's different part, she's gonna be in the business future. So prior to the C word and everything happening, we hosted events for the utility industry, and we were on conferences, and we were doing over $1 million. Our business got destroyed. For the last 2 years, we rebuilt our business, but there's still a little bit of money sitting out there for the utility business. It's a 7-figure business, and we're building a new company. So now, what financial points should we be looking at? We're basically $1 million in revenue right now. What financial indicators should I be looking at as we rebuild this company? And let me go back. I was that guy who was buying the boats and the cars and the motorcycles and spending that money.
Not on my
and I wish I knew what I learned from you guys in the last 2 years. I mean, I wish I had this knowledge 30 years ago. And thank you. What numbers should we be looking at as we're rebuilding this thing? We are also deposited on 10X 360. We will make a decision at GrowthCon on when we're doing those events, mainly because we're booked solid between now and
Yeah. So look here. It's simple.
Awesome.
So yeah. First of all, appreciate you guys, and congratulations on rebuilding your business after it got devastated. Here's what I would tell you. The decisions you need to make is, and we cover this extensively. I talk a little bit about it at the 360. Jeff talks about it deeper at the 360, and then we go really deep into it during the 2-day finance essentials. And this is the algorithm to have your business be able to forward invest in the future success of the business. It's exactly how I build all my businesses. It's how I generate my revenue, and I tithe a certain amount of money. First, I want to get 30 days of money in the bank. Then I want to get 90 days of money in the bank, then 180 days worth of money in the bank, then a year. So I take my expenses, and my target is to generate enough revenue while I'm in any given cycle so if I start my business from scratch, I want to generate enough money that if, say, I started my business and I have 90 days of cash and that's it, then my first target is to generate a month of cash. That buys me 1 more month of staying in business. I have 3 months to generate enough profit that I can stay in business the 4th month. Once I start making enough money to be in business for the 4th month, now I want to generate enough free cash that I can stash it away to have 90 days of being in business. So I take my monthly expenses. I try to make enough revenue that I can bank enough money that I can reserve up to 90 days of cash over my current expense. Once I do that, I'm going to shoot for 180 days. I'm going to play that game until I have a 1.5 years of money. Now, for us, when we launched Cardinal Ventures, it was a startup. I mean, we were exactly 1 year, 12 months into the cycle when COVID hit, and Grant called me and he's like, dude, what do we need to do? How much money do I need to send you? What do we need to do? Who do we need to get rid of? What do we need to? And I'm like, all that's under control. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I mean, we just started this thing. I go, Grant, I've already reserved. We had 7 months of cash based on our burn rate. And so I talk about this extensively in the emergency business response, how you communicate to your team in real time, where you're at, what they need to do, what you need to do as a business, and then what process you go through to eliminate cost if revenues aren't increasing and you start burning money. And so when you have that algorithm, building a business is so much easier, but nobody teaches this because they don't understand it. And there's no one teaching it. And the people that do know it use it for themselves. So I just saw a massive opportunity to bring this education to people like you guys, but that's your game. And then you'll know what to invest in. If you had 30 days of cash, I'd say keep going until you have 90 days. When you hit 90 days, I'd say, okay, now between 90 and 180 days, what are out of the 3 investment criteria that Natalie laid out, what do you need in order to start growing the business? And then I would invest in that asset or that cost structure. And then I play the game again and rebuild those cash reserves. And then I'd play the game again. So you have rules in place for how you make those investment decisions. And they're made after you've got the discipline and you've got the confidence that you can generate the money. And then you play it again, you play it again, you play it again. And what happens is your business gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Your cash reserves get bigger, bigger and bigger, but you become much more intentional. So when you hire somebody and you're like, okay, I'm hiring you. Someone asked a question, hey, when you have CSRs and they don't generate revenue, how do you factor the 500,000 revenue per head? And I tell them, if you're going to hire an employee, you need to create $500,000 of revenue per head. Because if I'm going to hire somebody, they're going to take a load off of my plate, which means I can do more. Instead, the owner finally gets to where they've got 5 or 6 people and they go out and buy a boat and they start hanging out on the lake because they feel like, oh, I don't have to do it anymore. That's the wrong thing to do because you're crushing your own momentum. So you got to play this game. We go extensively into this in the Finance Essentials. I will tell you what, I'll make you a promise. Anybody that's not been to the Finance Essentials, you spend that money and you come. If you tell me that you didn't get your money back in gold, I'll give you your money back.
In gold? Does it have to be in gold?
Well, in weight, the weight of gold. Sorry.
Gold,
Yeah.
or like gold coming your way.
Yeah, because here's the thing. I mean, at the end of the day, no one's going to teach you this, but if you want to build a financially sound business, you're not going to be able to pay $5,000 and go anywhere and spend 2 days with anyone that's actually done it. That's going to show you how to do it. I haven't seen that resource in the marketplace at all.
No.
Yeah, and Brandon, thank you so much. Because at the end of in 2019, we decided to grow our business, and we actually had 6 months of reserves rolling into 2020, and we were killing it right up until what happened.
Yeah, well, the problem was the problem was you didn't have the reaction time that we teach.
Yeah.
And so that's why businesses get stuck in this vortex where they start crumbling under their own weight. So look, just you guys know how to make money. Here's what I tell people: congratulations, you know how to make money.
Yep.
Now learn how to get your money to work for you. That's what you need to do.
Thank you.
Thanks
Awesome,
so
guys.
much.
Okay, let's see who's next there.
Let's see. I think we're gonna get Mia unmuted. Hi, Mia.
Hi, Natalie. Hey, Brandon. How are you?
Hi, Mia.
So
I'm
great.
wonderful.
Thank you. So I'm a CPA and I own an accounting business with 12 employees. And last year we were at 1.8 in revenue with 45% profit margin. So my question is, so we want to make at least 3 million by the end of 2022, if not 4. But my question is, first, I don't want to like burn myself or work myself to death. Is that even possible? And then I don't know if we should focus more on growth or maintaining the margin, because I'm thinking we're approaching breakpoint number 1.
Yeah, so this is a great question, and congratulations. This should be a hint for everybody who's on here who's not a CPA. Everyone should be paying attention that Mia is an awesome person and she's a CPA and she's asking me the same question all of you business owners would be asking. So I think this tells us something about CPAs, right? So they can account, but they can't build. So this is different to come back and tell you what's happened in the past. It's a different thing to teach you how to generate it. So the reason Mia is asking this question is that they have the ambition to grow and scale, and she knows she can track and account. Now, what I would tell you, Mia, is that the factors that allowed you to generate your revenue and maintain your 25% profit margin, you should pursue growth, but you should never pursue growth at the expense of your 25%. So what that means is that's one of your key performance indicators. So when you're hiring somebody, it forces you to say, okay, what does that person need to do in order for the business to add the 250 to 500,000, whatever the revenue per head is? What does that person have to do to contribute if I'm going to justify hiring? Because I'll tell you, most business owners just hire people and throw them at problems and then hope that they're going to create more capacity for the business to grow.
And then they don't even look at what those team members are spending time doing. This is why I'm so passionate on the people side, because yes, there's all of these financial decisions that have to be made about hiring the person, but most of you guys hire somebody, you barely even hold them accountable to cardone you every day, which is 15 minutes of their 7 hours and 45 additional minutes of time that people don't actually look at to see what are you spending your time to add value to do for the $60,000 I'm paying you or the $75,000 that I'm paying you annually.
100%. So there's no accountability. And then the owner is victimized by that. So is the employee, because they're going to be let go or they're going to end up having a poor work environment. So your challenge is, okay, where are there leverage points in the business, Mia, where you can add revenue add value. Who do you need to help you do that? What do they need to do the minute you hire them in order to give them 90 days to get you up there? It's okay if you fall back a little bit, but you should be able to make it up. So we would never hire anybody here for the sake of hiring. Everyone is tasked at either creating more efficiency, creating more synergy. And then in some cases, like with Sherman, all of a sudden now he's like, okay, well, if I got to add a revenue per head at an average cost. So I use a factor of $86,000, $85,000 a cost per head. So Sherman's like, oh, I could go offshore and I could hire 10 people for that or 8 people for that. And so all of a sudden he gets a multiplier effect. But if you don't have the skill set or talent to do that, but see, he had to invest in systems in order to do that. You can't do that running it the way you do walking in the office every day, just sitting down talking to people.
Yeah, Mia, we're very confident. You said 25%, but she said 45%.
Oh,
We're
okay,
very
yeah.
confident that you can grow and hit 3 million in revenue and still maintain that 45% margin. If you tell yourself you can do that and you set that as your target, you will look at the resources differently and you will create the structure around those resources to only be the things that would add value at the moment in time in which you're making those investments.
Yeah. And Mia, you can, and so it's okay to go to 30 for a period of time, as
Like
long as
a month.
as long as you have a specific target.
Yep.
So I always say 90 days to get new people on board, acclimated, get them into the business, get them to create value. So you go, hey, I'm taking a hit. See, if you register as a business owner, you're like, look, I'm going to invest a whole bunch of money in you. And what I need you to do is invest in yourself. And I'm going to show you how to do that. And I'm going to tighten up the onboarding. And I'm going to make sure you understand how to impact the business. I'm going to make sure you understand how we drill, practice, rehearse, and go to action. Because now as a business owner, you're like, I'm not hiring somebody, I'm investing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
that return on the investment needs to be additional lift in the business. Otherwise, why invest?
Mm-hmm. So true.
So what you're
And when
saying, is
people,
hire people, right? Hire good people and train them, and then maintain $250,000 per employee at least
at least.
in revenue.
Awesome. Good to see you, Mia.
Thank you.
Great
Good
to
to see you.
see you, Mia. Do you want to take one more question?
Yeah, let's do Carolina.
Carolina,
Carolina, sorry. My
That's one of our
trifocals.
favorite
Hey, Carolina.
restaurants.
How are you doing?
Great.
Good.
Okay, thank you so much for this. I love it. I'm also reading Natalie's book. It's
Awesome.
amazing. So,
Thank you.
so my question today is following last week's. I already interviewed the person that that I want to hire. I think we hit it off. You know, everything went very well. I haven't disclosed, and this is a conversation we'll have most likely tomorrow, her compensation structure, which I think I have, you know, defined based on my average profit and everything. So my question today is, she will have a base salary, which is half of what she's earning currently. But the commission structure at the end of the year, if we hit our goal, will surpass what she's expecting. So this is based on the advice that I received from you. Now, apart from that, I would like to also reward, if we surpass that goal, have some reward structure, but that's where I'm a bit stuck. And I would like to offer that her that as well, but I really don't
Yeah, I
know.
mean, this is why it's important to come to the Finance Essentials, because we can't give that kind of guidance over the phone, because you got to work through the worksheets, right? The workbooks. There's a process, because it's really hard to just tell somebody, oh yeah, because you've got all this information, but we don't know what it is. And until you go through the work process, we don't know what the profitability is going to be. But I definitely subscribe to the concept that you have your targets that drives what I call normalized compensation. And then you have over targets, which is if we accelerate as a team, we crush it, that will pay extra incentives, because you want your team pulling for you. You don't want them just resting on the laurels. So having those in place are a great strategy. And then making sure that you don't do that and normal comp and PPF goals and not factor all that into the cost, because PPF goals will eventually convert to investment dollars. So you got to pay particular attention to how much money you're putting on the table and make sure that everything pays the way it should. Because if you put a broken compensation structure in front of somebody and then you can't pay it out and you explain that you can't, then they lose confidence in your ability to be a business owner and understand what you're doing. And once that confidence is broke, you find yourself in kind of a hard spot with your team members trusting you.
Yeah. And one of my recommendations on this is we are not big proponents of having a pool of money over at the end of the year that just gets split up amongst a bunch of team members. Every individual should be incentivized for their individual contribution, whether that be through sales that they generate or efficiencies that they create or targets that they hit. And if you are structuring this over the next couple of days, just definitely don't put some sort of massive profits percentage payout at the end of the year as like a team bonus. With that, guys, we love Tuesday nights with you. We appreciate you guys showing up. If you are interested in joining us at the Finance Essentials Workshop, drop the word finance in the chat. If you could drop,
or you can click on the QR code
finance in the chat. This is one of the things that our sales team asked us to do, because there's often so many of you guys that we have to, make all of these calls, and sometimes we can't get a hold of everybody. So if you drop the word finance in the chat, our sales team will make sure that we follow up with you guys this evening. You can also scan the QR code, but you putting the word finance in the chat will definitely help us out in order to get you all the information you need and get you signed up for the Finance Essentials Workshop.
All right.
Any final closing thoughts?
No,
Mr. Dawson?
all I'm going to say to you guys is, look, it's in the middle of February.
The best day of the year was yesterday.
I had the privilege to give my new wife for the first time Valentine's Day roses on Valentine's Day as my wife. So look, I'm celebrating something every single day. And today we're celebrating all of you for joining us on 10X Owners Live. And we will see you next week.
Can't wait. Bye, guys.
The whole purpose of this show is to engage with business owners and be able to answer questions for people that will give them some insight and perspective on how to grow and scale a business. Not only leadership, but real life examples. This is the golden moment. I would do business with you right now.